space doesn't rip. It screams. A white fissure cracks across the void like a wound slicing open the skin of existence itself. Galaxies shudder, stars flicker, time blurs, and from the center of the fracture emerges something featureless, colorless, soundless, yet louder than every scream in the cosmos. Superman halts mid-flight above Metropolis. His cape freezes, suspended in windless air. Doctor Strange stumbles as every spell sigil around him collapses. The Flash feels the Speed Force stutter, an impossible sensation. Thor's hammer drops from his hand. Batman's monitors flicker with warnings that don't exist in any human or alien language. Wanda's magic turns pitch black for a single heartbeat. The multiverse pulses like it's taking its final breath. And then, without warning, the impossible shape inside the fissure grows eyes. Except they aren't eyes. They're windows into a place where universes go to die. A voice with no sound pushes outward. This is the end of all ending. If this moment rewrote everything you thought you knew, you're going to want to see what comes next. Hours before the rupture tore open the sky, everything was normal. Or as normal as the Marvel and DC universes ever get. Metropolis glowed under sunrise as Superman patrolled the skyline, listening to heartbeats, satellites, storms across continents. He heard something strange that morning, a faint hum beneath reality, like wires vibrating beneath the floor of the universe. At the same time in New York, Doctor Strange meditated inside the Sanctum Sanctorum, but his astral form kept drifting into places it shouldn't. Not other dimensions, not alternate timelines, but into blankness, like entire realities had been erased, and nobody remembered they existed. The Flash felt it next, a stutter in the Speed Force, like a frame missing from a film reel. One moment he was sprinting through Central City, the next, his surroundings skipped like a glitching video, and he appeared 15 miles away, with no memory of the steps in between. Across the ocean, Wonder Woman walked through Themyscira, as the sky above her trembled for exactly 1 second. A tremor so faint even she questioned whether she imagined it. But animals fled. The waves shifted and the Oracle's eyes rolled white. And then there was Tony Stark. Stark Tower picked up the anomaly in the form of impossible numbers, negative frequencies, reversed gravity waves, coordinates that mapped to locations that didn't exist. Tony stared at the probability simulations as they spiraled into chaos. He ran the program 3 times, then 5, then 10. Every outcome indicated the same result: multiversal collapse, 100%. Meanwhile, Batman detected the anomaly long before anyone else, because Gotham is a city built on nightmares, and nightmares always know when something worse is coming. Bruce watched satellite feeds glitch, quantum readings spike, and an unexplainable shadow fall across the moon. He didn't trust mystics. He didn't trust aliens. He barely trusted other humans. But this was something that didn't obey any rule in the universe. Not magic, not science, not cosmic logic. It didn't even follow chaos. It followed nothingness. Wonder Woman assembled on Themyscira's council floor as its marble pillars shook. Thor looked to Odin's ravens as they fled Asgard entirely. Doctor Strange consulted the Book of Vishanti, only to find pages missing, erased, as though they were never written. Superman gazed upward and saw the edges of the sky ripple, like a curtain fluttering before collapse. The multiverse wasn't breaking, it was being deleted, and every hero felt it, like a pressure building behind their heartbeat, a countdown nobody could see. The warning signs converged. Bruce Wayne stood in the Batcave, staring at a single phrase blinking across every monitor: "The final enemy is awakening." Across realities, Tony Stark stared at his own screens as the exact same phrase appeared. 2 universes, 1 warning. Something ancient, older than creation itself, was rising. A force that doesn't conquer, a force that doesn't feed, a force that doesn't think, a force that ends. This wasn't destiny, this wasn't prophecy. This was the natural death of existence itself, triggered by something neither universe saw coming. And the first crack was about to open. The fracture didn't open quietly. It exploded like a dying star, firing its last scream into oblivion. Across Marvel Earth, a shockwave flattened clouds, blacked out skies, and knocked Avengers off their feet. New York plunged into darkness as the sky split into a vertical wound of blinding white. Across DC Earth, the moon split, not physically, but visually, as though two overlapping realities were failing to align. Gotham dimmed. Central City froze mid-motion. Themyscira's ocean turned silver. The final enemy was not a person, or a creature, or a being. It was a correction, a cosmic failsafe, a cleanup mechanism designed to activate when the multiverse grew too unstable. Strange felt the explanation burn into his mind. I am entropy given purpose. I erase so the next reality may grow clean. Its form was abstract, shifting geometry, fractal limbs, hollow light, and its presence made even gods feel small. Superman tried to approach it, only to be thrown backward by a force that wasn't force. His molecular structure flickered, as if deciding whether to keep him in this reality or not. Thor hurled lightning. It passed through the entity like water through smoke. Wonder Woman charged with divine fury. Her blade bent, then dissolved into golden dust. The Flash attempted to run through it. He emerged on the other side aged 30 years in a single second. Wonder unleashed chaos magic. It fizzled like sparks in a hurricane. Even Batman, the man with a plan for every threat, felt something he hadn't felt in years: helplessness. Meanwhile, panic ignited across governments. SHIELD scrambled jets. The Justice League mobilized defenses. Asgard prepared for another Ragnarok. Atlantis trembled beneath tidal anomalies. Quantum realms fractured. Alien civilizations witnessed stars blinking out one by one. And then the worst misunderstanding occurred. Tony Stark misinterpreted a burst of energy as an attack from Superman's reality. Batman misinterpreted dimensional interference as a hostile incursion from Marvel Earth. Two universes, both brilliant, both terrified, pointed their sensors at each other and drew the wrong conclusion. They caused this. Heroes collided in misunderstandings powerful enough to rupture continents. Lightning from Thor clashed with bolts from Shazam. Iron Man fired particle beams that ricocheted off Wonder Woman's bracelets. Aquaman summoned tidal waves that collided with Namor's. Green Lantern constructs crashed into photon blasts from Captain Marvel. A war nobody wanted had begun, and the final enemy grew stronger with every clash. Because conflict wasn't accidental, it was fuel. The entity fed on chaos, misunderstanding, multiversal friction. The more two universes fought, the faster the collapse accelerated. Doctor Strange and Zatanna were the first to realize the horrifying truth. It grows because we fight. It consumes because we resist. It thrives because we exist. The final enemy spread across the sky like a virus of light. Fractures spiderwebbed across reality. Colors inverted, gravity reversed, time folded inward. The multiverse wasn't dying. It was being reset. And unless Marvel and DC stopped fighting each other, all universes would be wiped clean, forever. The clash hit full force. Marvel and DC collided with the kind of power that splits worlds open. Thor's hammer met Superman's fist, and the shockwave rippled through 3 dimensions at once. Batman disabled Iron Man's suit with a single EMP batarang, forcing Tony to eject midair and barely avoid crashing. Flash circled Captain America at the speed of light, but Steve timed a shield throw perfectly, redirecting the vortex into a harmless burst. Wonder Woman locked blades with Black Panther, each move tested not by power, but precision, discipline, and warrior instinct. Green Lantern rained constructs across the sky as Doctor Strange carved defensive portals that redirected each blast harmlessly into the ocean. It wasn't hatred. It was fear. Fear that the other universe had caused the collapse. Fear that an invasion was underway. Fear that their worlds might be erased. And the final enemy, watching from the sky, swelled with radiant hunger. Every punch, every blast, every misunderstanding. It consumed the chaos like oxygen. But even in the middle of an impossible war, moments of clarity began to emerge. Spider-Man dodged a lightning strike from Static Shock, and both hesitated. Dude, are we even supposed to be fighting? I thought you attacked first. Likewise, Superman caught Captain Marvel mid-air, but instead of throwing her, he said, "Your energy, it matches the anomaly. You're not the cause, are you? Captain Marvel stared back, realization dawning. No, I thought you were the cosmic threat. Green Lantern landed before Doctor Strange, breathing heavily, eyes flaring. Your spells. They're collapsing too, not attacking us. They're breaking down. Strange nodded gravely. Because something is unmaking the laws we rely on. Piece by piece, both sides began to understand. This war served no purpose. It only made things worse. But not everyone stopped immediately. Batman lunged at Iron Man again, not out of aggression, but desperation. Our universes are incompatible, Bruce shouted. Coexistence is impossible. The readings... Tony fired back. Yeah? That's exactly what a guy who trusts zero people would say. Meanwhile, up above, Thor and Wonder Woman both turned toward the entity in the sky, finally noticing its immense growth. Its shape had doubled. Its fractures had multiplied. Its presence pulsed like a dying star. And suddenly, the two gods realized the truth. They weren't looking at a villain. They were looking at the end of reality. Wonder Woman flew downward, shouting across the battlefield, "Stop! All of you, stop!" Her voice, divine, commanding, unignorable, froze the battle. The noise halted, the lightning stilled, the dust settled, and hundreds of heroes turned toward her as she pointed at the sky, at the final enemy, at the thing feeding on their conflict. "This is not your enemy," she declared. "And neither are they." Silence spread. Then Superman spoke, voice steady but grim. "If we keep fighting, we destroy everything." And Tony, still bruised, still frustrated, exhaled sharply. "Okay, so, team up time?" Batman crossed his arms. "Not a team up. A temporary truce." Thor grinned. "Call it whatever you wish, mortal, but we shall strike together." The Flash cracked his knuckles. "About time." Spider-Man pointed upward. "So, we're fighting that thing." Doctor Strange nodded. "Yes, but understand this, it cannot be defeated, only delayed." Captain Marvel floated upward, fists glowing. "Then we delay it with everything we've got." For the first time, the Marvel and DC universes stood side by side, and the final enemy trembled because unity starved it. This was a war they should never have fought, but now, the real battle was about to begin. The sky dimmed as the final enemy expanded across the horizon like a cosmic eclipse, swallowing the sun. Its form pulsed, not alive, but operational. It wasn't a creature. It wasn't a god. It wasn't a demon, alien or corrupted celestial. It was a process, a protocol, a cosmic failsafe. Dr. Fate hovered beside Doctor Strange, both mystics weaving protective sigils that flickered and warped. "This thing has no soul," Fate murmured. "No spirit, no consciousness. It is the AI of the multiverse, the termination function." Strange nodded grimly. "An automated reset triggered by chaos." Superman floated upward, eyes glowing with heat vision. "So we stop it." Fate shook his head. "You cannot stop a natural law." Batman stepped forward. "Then we rewrite the law." Tony Stark raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, sure, let's just hack the universe. No big deal." But he wasn't joking, because something about the entity was predictable. Repetitive patterns, symmetrical fractures, recursive geometry. Tony and Bruce exchanged a look. They didn't agree on much, but on this, they aligned instantly. "Pattern-based system," Bruce muttered. "Replicable code," Tony added. They spoke in sync. "It can be overridden." Meanwhile, Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel, Superman, and Thor launched the first united strike. Their combined energy, godly, cosmic, Kryptonian, quantum, blasted into the final enemy. And it paused for one moment. Not because it felt pain, but because it was calculating. Its body fractured open, revealing a hollow core, a tunnel of white light devouring the horizon. From inside the core emerged visions of collapsing universes. A planet folding like paper, a city reversing into dust, a galaxy dissolving into static, a timeline stitching itself backward, entire species blinking out mid-breath. The final enemy projected these not as warnings, but as process logs. It was showing them the erase cycle. "It has happened before," a voiceless presence radiated. "It will happen again. This is maintenance. This is cleanup. This is necessary." Batman stared, horrified. "How many universes has it wiped?" The answer pulsed. "All of them," Flash swallowed. But we're here. Its response chilled every atom in every body. Temporary state. Anomaly detected. You were never meant to exist. The heroes realized the truth. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the right to have ever existed in the first place. Thor hurled lightning that pierced the clouds. Wonder Woman deflected beams of null energy with her shield. Captain Marvel flew through fractal limbs, unleashing cosmic fire. Superman punched through gravitational distortions, shattering recursive space. And then, the final enemy adapted. Its limbs multiplied, its core expanded, its edges sharpened like blades, its light turned black, the absence of everything. It wasn't defending itself. It was preparing the final sweep, a wave that would erase all realities in one motion. Strange felt the surge. "The reset is beginning!" Bruce shouted. "Tony, now!" Tony activated his override plan, a multi-phase signal built from Kryptonian frequencies, Asgardian energy patterns, Stark tech, Mother Box harmonics, Lantern wavelength logic, and Speed Force imprints. The multiverse shook. The final enemy froze, not stopped, but interrupted. "We bought a minute," Tony gasped. "Then we make that minute count," Batman said. The multiverse trembled toward oblivion, and everything came down to the next 60 seconds. The final enemy reactivated, its body pulsing like a dying star, tearing itself apart to unleash one last catastrophic burst. The heroes felt the air grow thin, the ground vibrate, the sky tilt sideways as reality's fabric unraveled. This was it, the last stand. Superman was the first to charge, not with heat vision or brute force, but with something deeper, hope. He flew straight into the core's collapsing gravity well, pushing with every ounce of his Kryptonian strength to hold it open. Thor flew beside him, lightning exploding from his hammer. "If this is the end, we face it as warriors." Captain Marvel streaked in as a comet of raw, cosmic fire. Wonder Woman's golden lasso wrapped around a collapsing dimensional seam, pulling it apart with divine strength. The Flash ran a circular pattern so fast, he created a temporal whirlpool, stabilizing the edges for a few seconds. "Go, go, go, I can't hold this forever." Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate hovered above the battlefield, weaving the most complex spell ever cast, a forbidden ritual that merged magic from two universes into a single, impossibly dangerous incantation. Batman and Tony Stark watched from the command deck of a cross-universe fusion device assembled from Justice League and Avengers technology. The plan was brutal, but it was the only plan. A fusion seed, a cosmic detonation designed not to destroy the final enemy, but to create a new universe strong enough to overwrite its reset cycle. Not survival, not victory, rebirth, but it required one thing: a spark, a sacrifice, a hero to ignite the seed and become the first light of a new creation. Batman and Tony both stepped toward the ignition chamber. Batman: "It must be me." Tony: "Not happening. You've got a world to protect. I don't." Batman: "You have people who need you too." Tony: "Yeah, but I'm replaceable." Bruce: "So am I." Tony smirked. "You really aren't." Before they could argue further, Wonder Woman landed between them, eyes blazing. "You two will not decide the fate of creation alone." Superman landed next to her. "None of us should." Thor hovered above. Captain Marvel floated beside him. Flash skidded to a halt. Spider-Man swung down from a collapsing piece of debris. Green Lantern arrived with constructs flickering. Black Panther appeared with sonic charge gauntlets. Shazam landed in a burst of lightning. Every major hero stood together. Strange and Fate descended last. "The seed will only accept one," Strange said, "but the multiverse must choose." Fate added. The final enemy writhed above them, charging the reset wave. Light fractured. The sky dimmed. Particles lifted off the ground as gravity failed. Time was gone. They had seconds, and then someone stepped forward. Not Batman, not Tony, not Superman, not Captain Marvel. It was Flash, Barry Allen, the man who had witnessed timelines collapse more than anyone else, the man who had rewritten reality once before. He looked around at his friends, heroes from two universes united for the first and last time. "This started with the Speed Force glitch," he said softly. This whole collapse, I felt it first. Nobody stopped him. Nobody argued. Because they all knew Barry had always been the one who ran into the impossible. The final enemy unleashed the reset wave. The heroes unleashed their final attacks. The multiverse flickered. Barry touched the fusion seed. A blinding explosion erupted, not destructive, but creative. A burst of color, a storm of possibility, a roar of cosmic birth. Barry was gone. The multiverse went silent. And then the final enemy, for the first time, faltered. Its form cracked, its light flickered, its voice stuttered. Undefined, state, unpredicted, outcome. The reset wave collapsed inward, and the final enemy was swallowed into the newborn spark Barry created. A new universe, a new beginning, a single cosmic ember glowing in the void. The last stand wasn't a victory. It was a sacrifice so large it rewrote the fate of all existence. The heroes watched as the ember drifted into the void, the first star of a universe that hadn't existed until now. Their universes were gone, but something lived, something continued, and now they had to face the truth. They might not survive what comes next. When the echoes of the final collision fade, and the cosmic dust settles over the remains of what once were infinite universes, only one truth remains. Nothing survived the multiverse war unchanged. Heroes who once defended planets now float in a void without stars. Worlds once vibrant and full of life exist only as memories etched into the minds of their last witnesses. Even the laws of physics tremble, unsure of what they are supposed to be. The final enemy was not conquered, not defeated, not destroyed. It was transformed, reshaped by Barry Allen's sacrifice, and drawn into a universe that should not exist. A universe born from the collision of courage and inevitability. A universe they will one day need to enter. Superman stares into the distant ember, the newborn star Barry created. Wonder Woman bows her head. Thor grips his hammer with reverence. Spider-Man whispers a quiet thank you. Batman simply stands in silence. They don't know what waits inside that new reality. They don't know if the final enemy sleeps, adapts, or evolves. All they know is this: Barry bought them time, and time is the most valuable thing in any universe. If you're still here, traveler of the infinite galaxy, your journey isn't over. Something is stirring inside the newborn universe. Something shaped by sacrifice. Something no one is ready for. Stay ready, because the next anomaly is already on its way.